as soon as you have a liquid water environment on Earth, we could anticipate that, there would be scenarios where people could have seeded the Earth with life, so that life would develop very similarly on Mars.
The existence of water on Mars would also be of huge benefit to colonization efforts. And while scientists are still confirming the presence of this subglacial lake, they are now certain that in the distant past, the red planet was once blue and boasting a more robust atmosphere.
One of the most fantastic things that we've discovered with our orbiters and our rovers on Mars is about its history. And a number of really spectacular surprises have come out. The first one is that Mars at one time in its past looked more like the Earth. It was a blue ocean world with a significant amount of water.
We know for a fact that billions of years ago, when we were first getting started here on Earth, then Mars was a much more clement place. We know that it had a thick atmosphere to shield and blanket the planet, and it would have had organic molecules, the building blocks of all life as we know it. So it stands to reason that maybe Mars had its own genesis, its own origin of life.
Was Mars a fertile planet, teeming with life, thousands or perhaps millions of years ago? And if so, could the planet be modified in such a way that it could sustain human life? It is NASA's stated goal to send astronauts to Mars in the 2030s. But while humanity's efforts to colonize space are well underway, there is still a tremendous amount of planning and scientific groundwork to be done before we can truly begin to populate alien planets with large numbers of humans.
Right now, we're basically just tourists in space. We take everything we need with us, and in order to make the next giant leap, you're going to actually have to start using the materials that we find in space to help you explore. Okay, as soon as you make that step to use the materials that are available to you on the surface, now you're truly a pioneer.
There's a number of resources that are already available to us. And then, of course, we're going to want to start planting things. We're going to have to grow food. We're going to have to live off the land the best we can.
Live off the land? On Mars? According to NASA, innovations in technology will be able to make the Martian landscape more hospitable to humans than was previously believed. But could this same adjustment to a planet's environment be similar to what extraterrestrials could have accomplished here on Earth centuries ago? Ancient astronaut theorists say yes, and suggest that stories from nearly every ancient culture prove this audacious notion to be true.
One of the strangest traditions in South America is with the Teaupo people in Brazil. And they have this legend of the Bepo Cororoji, who came down from the sky in a lot of noise and wind and landed his craft. He then taught the people knowledge of civilization, herbs and medicine, building and agriculture and crops. And today, the Teaupo people celebrate him every year. And a priest dresses up in this outlandish outfit that looks like a spacesuit. So you have to wonder, where are they getting these ideas of people in spacesuits, if not from some extraterrestrials who landed there in the distant past? Today we are on the verge of going to other planets and seeding them with life. And it makes complete sense that something like that happened on our planet in the very distant past.
At Johnson Space Center in Houston, Texas, NASA exploration mission scientist Dr. Elizabeth Rampey introduces Travis Taylor to John Gruner, a space scientist with NASA's Astromaterials Research and Exploration Science Division. Gruner is working to determine what humans will be able to grow and eat on Mars so that they can live off the planet's resources.
So what is this? It's weathered volcanic ash, or tephra, and it's very similar to what's on Mars. Everybody thinks of Hawaii as this paradise, right? Warm beaches.
Right, right.
You get up on top of these volcanoes and it's cold, it's
cold,
dry.
Right.
And so we've been using this for a number of decades. It's kind of our general purpose Mars simulant. We try growing plants in it.
Well, have you been able to grow plants in it?
Sure, because people grow in volcanic soil all over the earth. It's full of minerals, right? But what we're lacking on Mars are those biological things that are those organic.
Well, at least we think we are, right?
At least we think, yeah.
Maybe not. We're finding this methane. But will we need some other things like bacteria or something that you have to mix into the soil before seeds will germinate and grow?
Because those roots in the soil don't just suck up the minerals by themselves. And of course, that makes the planetary protection people go crazy, because we want to bring bacteria and fungi and microbes to Mars, and of course we're trying to understand
If they're already there.
space robots are mankind's best hope for exploring the galaxy? Is it possible that Earth was visited by extraterrestrial robots hundreds and perhaps even thousands of years ago? If so, are we likely to encounter them again?
If we go to other planets, we would first send mechanical probes down to evaluate the climate and the minerals and the temperature and everything. You would think that extraterrestrials would do the same for our planet.
When you think about it, it's got to be one of the most fundamental things that they would do first. Sending out intelligent robotic systems to probe. They're expendable and you can send them everywhere. And perhaps we should be looking for those systems first as aliens.
According to ancient astronaut theorists, evidence that extraterrestrials sent robots to Earth can be found in the stories of ancient cultures.
In the story of the Argonauts, that's an old Greek myth, we for the first time hear about Talos. Talos was, today we would call it a kind of robot. Talos was always surrounding the island of Crete, and whenever someone wanted to come close to the island of Crete, he shot it down, except they had a certain code for which he did not shoot anymore. So for us, Talos was like a robot.
An important figure in early Greek mythology was Cadmus, a divine character, the first hero, fifth in the lineage from Zeus of the Greek gods. It was Cadmus that started agriculture, who brought civilization, and he brought the making of bronze. He knew how to make alloys, special metals, which in the early days of civilization was the beginning of technology. He was a slayer of monsters, and he killed a water dragon, and took the dragon's teeth and planted them like seeds, and great fierce warriors grew out of the process.
We have to wonder if a lot of this is again depicting machines being powered by some type of extraterrestrial energy.
When you look at the planet, you're trying to hypothesize what came here in terms of extraterrestrials and what came here first. Look at what we do to Mars. We send little rovers all over the place, electronic things. Did they do that to planet Earth too? Or did they come here directly and then come down with occupants? I think what probably happened was the craft came to the planet and then they sent down robots or androids to explore the planet.
You must be Julie.
I am.
I'm Travis.
During this visit to the Johnson Space Center, aerospace engineer Dr. Travis Taylor visited NASA's robotics lab, where he was shown the latest in spacefaring robots.
So this is robotics lab.
Well, this is the Dexterous Robotics Lab, and this is Robonaut. A lot of our future exploration concepts have us sending our assets, sending our spacecraft, sending the food and logistics first, and making sure everything's set up, and then sending our crew members.
So it's possible that the robots could actually build our habitats and things before we got there.
And that's the thought, yeah.
And what if you needed to make repairs on the outside of the ship? Could Robonaut do stuff like that instead of you having to go out and do that?
Absolutely. Robots are great for the dull, dirty, dangerous, and the crew members inside the spacecraft could basically be the robots and commanding everything about it.
So I noticed that Robonaut looks very human. Why make it look human? It doesn't have to have a head. You put the sensors anywhere, right?
Yes, absolutely. However, since we were trying to make it for a human environment and to work with humans, we thought that while we should follow function. So it's an engineering decision, but it's also kind of a good human interaction decision too. We've had one on the Fourth International Space Station for many years, and we always get the crew with us to say, hey, can I tweet this really cool photo that I took of me and Robonaut, and we're doing Tyvo together and
simple. Surviving on Mars will require not only new technology, but a new breed of humans.
All right, you want to go to Mars?
Sure, let's go to Mars.
At the Johnson Space Center in Houston, Texas, aerospace engineer Dr. Travis Taylor meets with Paul Valley, the project manager for the Active Response Gravity Offload System, otherwise known as ARGOS. Travis is eager to experience firsthand how space colonists will be trained in order to survive in reduced gravity environments.
And now you are on Mars.
Well, this is what Mars is like. I can jump. Oh, a lot higher. So if I were going to try to walk across Mars, the Argos simulator is amazing and giving me some insight and realizing it's not easy to work on a planet that isn't the planet I came from. If I was on Mars or the Moon or anywhere else, I'd have to completely retrain my mind and body for working there.
Yeah.
Well, getting up is the hard part. So, any civilizations that have done that, they would have had to do the same type of training. Or when they got here, they'd be extremely clumsy. That's almost impossible.
Yeah, now imagine doing it.
There you go.
Now imagine doing it with a spacesuit, life support, all this.
Yeah, you don't realize how much you use gravity to do everything.
Yeah, you don't realize till it's gone.
Recent NASA footage of astronauts doing somersaults in midair and eating floating M&Ms paints a whimsical picture of what it's like to live in a low-gravity environment. The lack of gravity can, over time, have a devastating and profound impact on the human body.
What we have to do when we decide to go to Mars is really study all aspects of human physiology, how we're going to operate in gravity that's much less than the Earth. Our body will change because of that environment. We're doing research in many ways right now, studying the effects of being weightless and then coming back to the Earth.
March 2nd, 2016, Kazakhstan. American astronaut Scott Kelly returns to Earth after a record-setting 360-day mission aboard the International Space Station. The duration of the mission was intended to help researchers understand how prolonged periods of time in zero gravity can affect the human body. Scott's identical twin brother, Mark, also an astronaut, served as a control subject.
Because of his twin's DNA, which is very identical to his, they could then determine what kind of DNA changes had happened to him. And what they discovered was that about 7% of his DNA had been altered.
Extensive post-mission lab tests confirmed the astonishing changes that had taken place. Genes related to Scott Kelly's immune system, DNA repair, bone formation networks, his bloodstream, and numerous other systems have all been altered. The startling results prompt scientists around the world to ask, what are the implications for humans who leave Earth permanently?
So I did a lot of my early medical research on how the human body evolves to space as you go up into orbit. So we are going to begin to speciate and form subspecies of humans as we head off into Ceres.
Perhaps we should genetically modify ourselves to thrive in outer space. We're going to have to modify ourselves to adjust to different atmospheres, cosmic rays, radiation, you name it.
We want to use genetic technology to evolve ourselves and modify our DNA, modify our organs to meet the needs of space, which the human race has been waiting for so long to try to
February 2017. Maverick geneticist Dr. George Church of Harvard University makes an announcement that sounds like something out of a Hollywood movie. Using a genome editing tool called CRISPR-Cas9, he and his team have combined DNA from an Asian elephant with genetic material from a species that's been extinct for nearly 4,000 years.
completely decode DNA and recode it. You also have the technology then to genetically alter any human being or any animal or plant. And so therefore, you're able to genetically engineer humanoid species that will be better adapted to space travel, better adapted to life on a different planet. The extraterrestrials coming here in the ancient past could have easily have done exactly the same thing.
Could extraterrestrials, in possession of the same DNA-altering knowledge, have used it to aid their colonization efforts here on Earth thousands of years ago? An idea which once seemed absurd now seems remarkably and eerily plausible.
Could you go back in time and look at something like the pre-human creatures and genetically modify them and create what has become Homo sapiens? With our technology today, we could pick a near sentient creature and start doing genetic modifications on it and create a new sentient race.
In addition to genetically modifying the human body in order to make it better suited for space travel and colonization, many experts propose that there will also need to be a merging of man and machine. Genetically modified space colonists, they argue, will have to be fitted with biomechatronic parts in order to create a human that is smarter, faster, stronger, and more durable.
I've been talking with some scientists, and they say the next thing that's going to be coming is the cyborg evolution of humanity for those that are going to go into space.
We have this Hollywood image that the aliens are going to land and they're going to come out looking somewhat like us and they'll say, "Take us to your leader, Earthman." But I think it could be quite different. They could be part robotic. Realize that they could be thousands of years more advanced than us.
If there is a culture out there that's more advanced than us, they've already built these robotic bodies, why wait for them to come to us? We have to become a huge spacefaring culture, a civilization, to go out and answer these questions for ourselves instead of just sitting on our hands and waiting for them to give us the answer someday.
In finding ways to modify the human body, along with developing highly advanced methods for terraforming other planets, is mankind really going where no one has gone before? Or are we simply fulfilling our destiny, one that stretches back to the very beginnings of human life here on Earth? As far as ancient astronaut theorists are concerned, the more humans venture into space, the closer they will be to discovering their true origins. Not on Earth, but on an alien world, far, far away. December 20th, 2013. Noted ecologist Dr. Ellis Silver publishes his book, Humans Are Not From Earth. In it, he proposes that humans possess a multitude of physical vulnerabilities, such as slower childhood development, a height susceptibility to illness, spinal problems, and difficulty giving birth. He concludes that they most likely evolved on another planet.
There are a lot of indications that mankind, the human race, actually did not evolve on the planet Earth. For one thing, if we go out in the sun too long, we get sunburn. And that doesn't make a lot of sense unless the conditions on planet Earth have changed very dramatically in the last few thousand years. You have to wear sunglasses outdoors. That also indicates that our eyes are not properly adapted to the planet.
Some recent studies in sports medicine have shown us that the human body creates two types of fat. One isn't a good type of fat, and the other one is. And interestingly enough, studies show that if you bring the temperature down to about 67 degrees Fahrenheit, you create the good fat and not the bad fat. Near the equator on Mars, in the summertime, it's about 67 degrees Fahrenheit. Now, that's Mars today with very little atmosphere. Imagine in the past where Mars had an atmosphere, the average temperature on the surface might be around 67 degrees.
Another factor is that when astronauts actually go into space, their circadian rhythms, their body clocks change from 24-hour days to a 24.9-hour day, and that happens to be the exact rotational period of a single day on the planet Mars. Given the fact that our body clocks are tuned to the planet Mars, not to the planet Earth, that indicates to me that we actually came